Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for today's webinar. My name is Jamie Charleston and I'm the Senior Sales Engineer at Cloud Linux. Today we are presenting Linux Kernel Live Patching in VMware Cloud on AWS together with Sonali Desai, Product Marketing Manager at VMware Cloud on AWS, VMware. During the next 40 minutes, you'll learn how being a client of VMware Cloud on AWS ensures your security compliance, how to bolster your security compliance policies and ensure infrastructure uptime and protection from vulnerabilities with rebootless Linux Kernel Live Patching by Kernel Care, and get your answers from experts at Cloud Linux and VMware Cloud on AWS. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel, or post a question on Twitter with the hashtag VMware Kernel Care. I'll bring them up at the end of the session for questions and answers. Please note this webinar will be recorded. If you're uncomfortable with that, feel free to drop from the call and listen to the recording later. We'll provide a link to it in our blog and social media. So let's get started. Now we'll turn over our time to Sonali Desai, Product Marketing Manager at VMware Cloud on AWS, VMware. Sonali will cover fundamental concepts of VMware Cloud on AWS.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. And thanks everyone for joining for our today's webinar. In the beginning, I'm going to cover the overview of VMware Cloud on AWS. So as many of you are aware, application is in the lifeblood of modern organizations. And all these modern businesses, they need all the modern applications. But when you consider about all these modern applications, whether it is across different deployments like public cloud or private cloud or at the edge, all these modern applications in any different form factors, what they need is they need flexibility. And it has been observed that there will be more applications deployed in the next 5 years than the applications that were deployed in the last 40 years. So this is how the modern business applications have impact on the businesses. But when they require flexibility, it has been observed that hybrid cloud is the way to get that flexibility and speed that they need in this digital transformation era. And when I say hybrid cloud, what is the most important factor is consistent infrastructure and consistent operations across all these environments, whether it's a public cloud, whether it's a private cloud, or whether it's the edge infrastructure. But when you consider the hybrid cloud across all these environments, there are some of the key requirements or challenges when you try to deploy the hybrid cloud. The first one is operational inconsistencies. So how can you make sure that there are consistent operations across all these environments? The second one is different tools and skill sets. So how can you make sure that you are using the same tools and skill sets across these environments and you don't want to retrain your staff or learn new tools or skill sets? Third one is disparate management tools and security controls. So you want to avoid the management tool sprawl when you are working across these environments. The fourth one is inconsistent application SLAs. So when you are working across these 3 different environments, you want to maintain the enterprise-grade SLAs. And last but not the least is incompatible machine formats. So when you consider porting your applications across different formats, you want to make sure that the machine formats are compatible with each other, and you don't need to refactor or re-architect your applications when you migrate your applications across these platforms. So in order to address these challenges, VMware and AWS, they came up together with this jointly engineered solution. This is called as VMware Cloud on AWS. So we started our partnership in 2016, and we came up with this solution in 2017 at VMworld. So as you know, VMware has been a leading compute storage and network virtualization provider for over 20 years. And VMware supports a broad range of enterprise workloads, and it has been a de facto standard for enterprise data center. And AWS is the leading public cloud provider that provides you the flexible consumption economics. So you can implement the pay-as-you-grow model. And it provides you the broadest set of cloud services And also it provides you the global scale and reach. So with VMware Cloud on AWS, these are some of the key differentiators of our service. The first one is we provide this service as a service model. So what it means is you pay only for whatever you use, and we provide you this service as a managed service. So everything is managed by VMware. And this is the rich VMware software-defined data center stack that is delivered as a cloud service running on AWS public cloud. The second one is consistency. So we provide you the consistency and familiarity of VMware technologies. So whatever the technologies or tools that you were using on premises, you can use the same tools and skill sets in the cloud. Next one is portability. So we provide you the easy workload portability and hybrid capabilities. So you can move your workloads back and forth between on-premises and cloud according to your requirements. The fourth one is integrated direct access to native AWS services. So with VMware Cloud on AWS, we provide you high bandwidth, low latency access to native AWS services. So you can integrate with these services from the VMs that are running in VMware Cloud on AWS. And last is any app. So what we mean by that is our strategy is to provide you the support not only for the VMs, but also for the containers. And you might have heard about it in the VMworld keynote this year. Now let's talk about the service itself. So what exactly is this service offering? On the left-hand side, you can see that you have this on-premises data center. And on the right-hand side, you have the native AWS services. And in the middle, the middle block is VMware Cloud on AWS. So what we are providing with this service is you get the entire VMware software-defined stack, that is compute, storage, as well as networking virtualization running on AWS bare metal infrastructure. So the point to be noted here is this is not a nested virtualization. So you are running vSphere, vSAN, NSX on bare metal EC2 instance. Then it is all delivered, operated, and supported by VMware. And we provide the support from VMware side, and VMware is your single point of contact for any kind of support needed. Also, as I mentioned, this is a managed service. So what it means is VMware provides the entire patching, updates, and supports for you. So you don't have to worry about any lifecycle management. And if there is any problem with the hardware, you will route your request through VMware. So there is no, so you don't have to contact AWS for any hardware issues. The service will be routed through VMware itself. And also this service is supported by VMware partners as well as AWS partners. The next important point is on-demand capacity and flexible consumption. So as I mentioned, we provide you this service as a cloud, which is based on the cloud consumption model. So what it means is you pay on demand for whatever you use. So we provide you on-demand option so that you can pay on hourly basis. Also, what it means with on-demand capacity is suppose you start with 3 hosts in the beginning, and then you think that you need one more host because there is some event coming up, and for that you need some burst capacity. And for that you want to spin up one new host, then you can add that additional host as well. And to set up the entire SDDC, it takes less than 90 minutes. And if you want to add additional host, it literally takes less than 10 minutes to add that host. And another important point here is flexible consumption. So what it means is we provide you 3 different options to consume this service. First one is on demand, that is you pay on hourly basis. The second one is 1-year subscription, and the third one is 3-year subscription. So you save some cost, like around 30% if you go for 1-year subscription and around 50% if you go for 3-year subscription versus what you pay for hourly basis. The fourth point is full operational consistency with on-premises SDDC. Because everything is based on vSphere and vCenter APIs. So because of that, you get the full operational consistency with your existing on-premises environment, and you can use the same tools and skill sets that you were using on-premises, and you can use the same VMware APIs as well. The next point is the seamless large-scale workload portability and hybrid operations. So with VMware Cloud on AWS, you can perform the bulk migrations as well as you can perform the live migrations where you don't have to shut down your VMs, or you can perform the cold migrations. And with this service, what we are providing is something called as VMware HCX. So VMware HCX is a part of the service provided as a free, and you don't have to pay anything extra for that. So with VMware HCX, you can do the bulk migration. So customers have migrated literally thousands of VMs with VMware HCX. Also, what you can do is you can do a scheduled migration. So you can schedule your migration for the weekend using VMware HCX. And you can do a live migration. So you don't have to shut down your VMs. So if there are any mission critical applications running on your VMs and you can't afford a downtime, you can do that with VMware HCX live migration. And when I say hybrid operations, so what I mean with that is if you have some workloads running on premises and some workloads that are running in the cloud, then you can see all of your resources across both the environments in a single pane of glass. So we provide a functionality called as hybrid link mode. So with that, when you enable the hybrid link mode in your vCenter console in the cloud, you can see all your on-prem as well as cloud resources. So you don't have to maintain two different vCenter consoles. And if you want to see all of your resources in your on-premises vCenter console, we provide a functionality called as vCenter Cloud Gateway. So with that, if you install that gateway appliance on premises, you can get the holistic view of entire environment on premises as well as cloud in your on-prem vCenter console. The next point is about the global AWS footprint, reach, and availability. So we provide VMware Cloud on AWS across 16 different regions today, and our aim is to provide this service in all the regions where AWS has availability, and we are working towards it. And I'll share with you a regional map in a bit. And last but not the least is direct access to native AWS services. So as I mentioned before, you get the low latency, high bandwidth access to native AWS services like S3, Redshift, or Lambda, and you can integrate these services with the applications that are running on the VMs in VMware Cloud on AWS. So far we launched this service 2 years back, and so far we have launched around 200 plus regions, and we are available in 16 regions globally. And we have the update schedule as a quarterly basis, and so far we have done like 25 major and minor updates, and we have 99.99% SLA with the stretch clusters capability. And within 65 minutes, you can spin up the entire SDDC on bare metal infrastructure, and like around 12 minutes to add a host. And we provide a functionality called as a chat support. So within 3 minutes, you will get answer to your queries on our chat support. And we have got like 90% of support satisfaction from our existing customers. And as I mentioned, this is our regional map. So we are available across 16 regions across US, EMEA, as well as APJ. And we have plans to make more regions available in the next couple of quarters. These are some of the key compliance or certifications. So we are already HIPAA certified. We have ISO certifications completed. And along with that, some other certifications as well, as you can see there. Now let's go through some of the customer examples. So Playtika is one of the largest global online gaming companies, and their requirement was that their data centers reach maximum capacity, and they wanted to migrate their test dev workloads to the cloud, and they wanted to have uninterrupted live migration. And they used VMware HCX running on VMware Cloud on AWS, and they literally migrated 650 plus workloads in just few days without any downtime. And they were able to do the uninterrupted testing and development with the live migration of these workloads. Then the next example is Stagecoach. So Stagecoach is a leading public transport company in UK, and their requirement was they wanted to migrate some of their mission critical applications to the cloud. So one of the mission critical application was the application that tracks the location of their trains and buses every second. And they cannot afford any downtime for these types of applications. So they used VMware Cloud on AWS along with stretch clusters. And with that, they were able to achieve 99.99% availability. And now they are running 45 terabytes of application that tracks the location of around 8,000 buses every 30 seconds. And that application is running on VMware Cloud and AWS. So this is the example of Black Mountain Systems. So it is a software development company that develops softwares for data aggregation, process management, etc. And they wanted to evacuate their existing colo facility because the lease was going to get expired and they were not happy with the SLAs. So they chose, and there was a cloud mandate from the executives. So they chose VMware Cloud on AWS for their migration. And they migrated the entire data center ahead of schedule. So they literally migrated 380 VMs and 30 terabytes of storage to the cloud in just 20 days. So here is the list of some of our customers. So this is not an exhaustive list. This is only the list of customers who have given us the permission to use their logos. And as you can see, we have customers across different industries and different regions all over the world. And as I mentioned, this is the information about our consumption model. So I have already talked about it, and we accept various payment methods. So if you have the existing SPP or HPP credits, you can use those. Or if you want to create a purchase order, or if you want to use a credit card, especially if you are trying to use it for the hourly basis for some demo or POC for just short amount of time, then you can use credit card as well. And you can find our pricing information and FAQs on our website as well. So you can find out all the prices, as well as you can use the pricing calculator to find out how much it will cost for your particular environment. And with that, I will hand it over to Jamie, and he will talk a little bit more about the Cloud Linux offering.
Thank you very much, Sonali. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box on your control panel, or post a question off to Twitter with the hashtag VMware Kernel Care. So with that, let me bring up my presentation. So now I'll describe how Linux live patching in the VMware Cloud on AWS helps VMware customers with compliance. So in this presentation, you're going to learn what live patching is with Kernel Care, how it works to keep your enterprise secure and compliant, some technical details on the integration of VMware Cloud on AWS, and some customer use cases. So what is the problem? Enterprises seeking lower cost and elastic deployments turn to VMware's hybrid cloud solution, VMware Cloud on AWS. VMware makes it easy to develop, scale, and move enterprise applications to and from the cloud, looking after much of the heavy lifting DevOps needs to guarantee the smooth running of their service stacks. But VMware's responsibility ends where the ESXi VMs running the applications begin. With Linux virtual machines, uptime gets degraded by rebooting, which is a necessity to install kernel updates and patches. Clustering and high availability configurations can make VM restarts invisible to service users, but increasingly, enterprises are looking to shave costs, question the CapEx spent on redundant failover resources, and the OpEx cost of administrating complex system topologies. This is where Kernel Care live patching technology comes into play, where you can go in and you can patch kernels without having to reboot the server itself. And the big issue is that enterprises often wait months until the next reboot cycle, and this delays compliance issues and creates critical security risks. Now, what is Kernel Care? Kernel Care is live patching software that updates the Linux kernel without stopping them as soon as a patch comes out. Live patching is a way to update the Linux kernel without stopping the environment in which it is running, be it bare metal or virtualized. Live patching emerged from the need to close the vulnerability gap, the time from which a kernel patch is available to when it's actually installed on the server. So, general features, there's no waiting and no reboot. We eliminate downtime. We install patches to a live or staging server without performance impact or without downtime. You never miss a critical patch. As the patching process is super fast, it's the latest security release, the agent checks for new patches every 4 hours. And it's very easy to install. It's a single line rebootless installation. In a few minutes for installation and registration, a couple nanoseconds to update, rollback capability, all again without reboots. So how does Kernel Care work? Now we have 3 specific components. We have our patch server. This is where we store all of the patches for all of the different kernel versions and architecture types that we support. And this could be our public repository or any on-prem repository for those organizations that need a security gap behind the firewall. We have an agent, which is a small program that runs in the background, and it checks the patch server at these regulated times to see if there's new patches available. And then there's a kernel module, which performs the patching when instructed by the agent. Now, on the back end, we have our security experts with deep knowledge of kernel development, monitoring all of the different Linux distribution groups and security teams 24/7, 365. Once they notice a vulnerability affects one of the kernels that we support, they promptly prepare a security patch. The patch is compiled into a binary format and deployed off to our distribution server. The Kernel Care agent then checks again every 4 hours to see if there is a new patch available. If a patch is available, it is downloaded and installed to the kernel again without updates, without reboot. So how does this happen? The kernel module allocates kernel memory, loads the new binary patch into memory, which is the new secure code. There's a momentary pause, which is a safe mode, which allows for modification of the original functions and jumps into the new secure code, ensuring the vulnerable code that was available in the previous kernel structure has been removed. It's no longer accessible. And then the process of the kernels are unfrozen and resumed. All of this happens within a couple of nanoseconds. Now, working with VMware Cloud on AWS, Kernel Care is installed inside of the Linux EC2 instance. From there, when it calls out through a proxy, and again, it can either call our public Kernel Care patch server repository, or it could be an internal repository, what we call ePortal. Now, we support over 1,500 enterprise companies, including Dell, Endurance, Liquid Web. We keep their servers secure, up and running, and compliant. We support most of the primary Linux distributions with automatic live updates. So we cover everything from Amazon Linux 1 and 2, standardized CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and Cloud Linux 6, 7, and 8. We've got Oracle Linux and additional virtualization stacks. Kernel Care is widely used in entirely different industries such as insurance, hosting industry, banking and brokerage, medical industry, e-commerce, and OEMs. So here is a comment from Joe Osterling. The downtime that reboots cause is a disruption for customers and nuance. For administrators, it can be easily avoided with Kernel Care. We're moving closer to a time in which this type of disruption is no longer excusable. Now again, for those that are interested in utilizing Kernel Care but have a gap requirement with their firewall and they don't want their servers publicly accessing our repository, we do have an enterprise solution, which is our ePortal. This allows you to maintain the integrity of all of the patches within your environment, where your administrators have the ability to approve the patches before dissemination. All of your servers call your local repository, which you have control over, and it controls your license and distribution. Now, on our roadmap, we're continuing a evolution. We've introduced ARM support, and we're working with Internet of Things developers. We have a CVE tracker, which allows security administrators within an organization to see what kernel vulnerabilities are available and when we're patching them. We also have in process Kernel Care honeypot. So it's nice to know that your kernel has been patched, but a lot of the new security issues that are available for the kernel and for the processors these days are invisible to administrators. So as we start the process with honeypots, we'll be able to detect when a hacker is attempting to exploit any of these vulnerabilities and notify you, the administrator. So real quick, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to go in and install Kernel Care. I've got a server environment here. We'll start out with a quick uname. You can see that this kernel is an older kernel. It's 2632.358. I'm going to go in and do a quick installation. Again, it's a single command line command to do the installation. And this is going to reach out to our repository after looking at the kernel that's in memory. We've already done the installation. Now, we talked about the internal process with ePortal. I'm going to send a command to the configuration file that tells it where to find my localized ePortal system. And then I'm going to run the registration command. Now, the system is completely done. You can utilize Ansible, Puppet, Chef, or any automation tool to utilize this to push out and register and install and manage your servers. Now, after that, we can go in and we can tell the system we want to look at updates. So here it's hashing the kernel in memory. It's downloading the patch and it's applying it. You can see that I now have a safe kernel. So let's go back and look at this again. I'm going to clear my screen just to make it a little bit easier to view. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a uname. And a uname, again, gives me the original boot kernel. So here I've got, again, the 2632.358. And I'm going to run a command that's going to give me the effective kernel. This is all of this brings me up to the latest kernel, and it shows that all of my patches have been applied. From the command line, if I want to review all of the patches and CVEs that have been applied, I can run a single command on the command line, and I can pull up all of the different patches. Now, let's say that you need to do some verification and administration work on the server. You're looking for an issue, and you want to rule out that there's a problem with the kernel. It's very easy, just as fast as installing patches, we can unload the patches. So a single command, kcrctl-unload, removes all of the patches. I'll clear the screen again. We'll come up and we'll look at the uname, and we'll look at the kcrctl-uname. You can see we're back to the original state. Now, the administration works goes through. Everything is clarified and the kernel is not part of the issue. We want to repatch the server. We can tell it to update again. It's going to validate. It's going to apply the patches. And just that quick, we are secure again. So you can see the process of installation, registration, patching, removal of patching, and repatching, all without reboots. So it's very quick, very simple. So with that, that wraps up my segment of the presentation. We'll now take this into the question and answer section. And let's see if we've got any questions coming in from the listeners? Okay, it looks like, Sonali, we have a question for you. When and why should an enterprise consider the hybrid cloud?
Yeah, so enterprises consider hybrid cloud in multiple scenarios. So basically, if you have some applications that are running on premises, but if you want to modernize those applications using some of the native AWS services, then what you can do is you can migrate those applications to VMC on AWS, and then you can integrate those with the native AWS services. So this is one scenario. Then the second scenario is there are some customers who actually want to migrate some of their applications, like for example, only the test day workloads, because they don't want to keep those in their on-premises environment, and they want to use like this pay-as-you-grow model for the test day workloads. So they can use that in the cloud. Or there are some customers who want to do like a DR in the cloud. So basically what it means is they have their on-prem production environment, and then they don't want to have like on-prem DR site, but instead they want to have their DR solution in the cloud. So in that case, they can use VMware Cloud on AWS. And I think we might have missed that slide on the use cases because there was some lag in between. Jamie, is there a way we can share the slide on the use cases? Yes.
Okay, customer-driven use cases, perfect.
Yeah, so I might, so let me do this. I will just go through all these typical use cases because we missed that part. So so these are all the customer-driven use cases, like what we hear from the customers. So the first one is the data center extension. So in this use case, there are like multiple different scenarios. So for example, if the customers want to expand their footprint in some new regions, and they don't want to build new data centers in those regions. So what they can do is they can migrate to VMware Cloud on AWS. And this is a typical scenario when you consider the hybrid cloud. Also the on-demand capacity. So for example, if the customers have some events coming up, or if there are some seasonal capacity needs, and if they want to meet those burst capacity needs, then they can migrate, they can spin up those particular hosts in the cloud, and then they can tear it down once the event is over. Then the next scenario is the virtual desktops and published apps. So some of the customers, what they wanted to do is they wanted to have these virtual desktops for their temporary workers or contractors or interns, and they want to tear it down once the work is done. So they spinned up these virtual desktops in the cloud. And last scenario is test day workloads. So as I mentioned, they wanted to migrate their test day workloads to the cloud and keep the production workloads on premises, because they wanted to have like those test day workloads in the cloud and tear it down when they are done with those. And then the next use case is around DR. So as I mentioned, customers want to get rid of their existing DR, or if they don't have any DR on premises, they want to completely create a new DR in the cloud, or they want to complement their existing DR solution. So they have some workloads on their on-prem DR site and some workloads running in the cloud DR. Then the next column is about cloud migration. So this is the most widely used use case. So customers, they want to do some application specific migrations. Like for example, they want to migrate their tier 2, tier 3 applications to the cloud, and they want to keep their tier 1 applications on premises. Or there were some customers who want to migrate their enterprise applications like SAP, Oracle, or SQL Server to the cloud because they want to modernize those applications. Also, the second scenario is like a largely observed one. So that is the data center wide evacuation. So as I mentioned about the Black Mountain systems, so some customers, they wanted to get rid of their on-premises data center because their colo facility lease was going to get expired, or they were not happy with the SLAs, and they want to completely migrate to the cloud. And the last scenario is about the infrastructure refresh. So customers had like very aging infrastructure on premises, and they want to they don't want to invest in upgrading that infrastructure. Rather, they want to move to the cloud, because in the cloud we provide you the latest vSphere, vSAN, and NSX versions. Also, there were some customers who wanted to keep their environment on premises, and they wanted to go for the upgrade. But what they wanted to avoid was any downtime. So what they did was they actually migrated to VMware Cloud on AWS and used VMware Cloud on AWS as a swing space. And last, very important use case is the next generation applications. So it basically talks about the application modernization. So what it means is you can modernize your existing applications and by integrating with the native AWS services. And there are some scenarios where customers want to build out new applications or want to build out the hybrid applications. So customers can do that as well using VMware Cloud and AWS. And as you can see in the bottom, these are some of the customer examples where they have used VMware Cloud and AWS for their use cases here.
Outstanding. Thank you for that complete answer. Okay, next question coming in. Does Kernel Care release patches for old kernels? And yes, we are supporting Linux kernels on distribution even after the end of life. So we're going to continue to make sure that you're secure in receiving the patches that you need. I have another one coming in. This one missed part of the presentation because of a call. So we are behind the firewall. How do we apply Kernel Care patches then? So we do have ePortal system. This is a simple machine that you just need to stand up within your environment. It's a small, light footprint as far as CPU and memory. It does require a little bit of disk space for storing all of the patches. But this patch server runs internally and has ability from your firewall to reach out so that it can synchronize. It acts as a bridge between the internal patch server and the main Kernel Care patch server. This is perfect for staging in production environments which need strict isolation from external networks or which require stricter control over the patches that are being applied. That said, you can still use the automated deployment and distribution of Kernel Care agents on your servers. And within the demo, if you go back in through the demonstration and the video that we'll release out to public media and on our blogs, you'll be able to see that installation process is very straightforward. The installation of the Kernel Care agent, then it's an application of two variables out to the configuration file telling it where your ePortal server is and the access to the API, and then simple registration. From there, you have the ability to control the dissemination of the patches out to your infrastructure. So thank you for that question. Next question is for Sonali. What are the challenges that organizations face when migrating to the cloud and how to solve these?
Yeah, so some of the key challenges is the first one is inconsistent operations and inconsistent infrastructure. So we have observed that when customers migrate their environments to the cloud, but they still have some workloads that are running on premises, and then if they want to have like consistency across these environments, they were not able to achieve that if they use like some native cloud version. And also another key challenge was around the existing tools and skill sets. So they were not able to use their existing tools and skill sets when they migrated to cloud, and they had to retrain their staff because they need to learn like new tools and skill sets that are new in that particular native cloud version. Then another very important factor was around the incompatible machine formats. So because customers, we literally met some of the customers at VMworld where they used the native cloud version and they migrated some of their applications, and then they were stuck over there because they needed to refactor or re-architect these applications. And some applications were easy to get refactored, but some were like really hard and they were stuck on there. And then they considered, okay, let's go back to VMware Cloud and AWS because that might make sense to use, because we are using the same vSphere, vCenter APIs, and they are essentially using the same VMware SDDC that they were running on premises, but it is just in the AWS cloud, so they don't have to refactor or re-architect applications. So that is another very very important factor when they consider migrating to the cloud.
Excellent. Okay, the next question. I have 7,000 servers. How do I deploy Kernel Care? Okay, that's great. We support the deployment tools for direct integration, such as Ansible, Puppet, and Chef, and other popular ones. If you've got custom tools that you're utilizing, our team can work with you to create the appropriate scripts. As far as installation, it's the installation of the Kernel Care package. If you're utilizing ePortal, you need to set up ePortal. And tell the configuration file of each of your servers to how to connect to the ePortal system, and then your registration. But you also have the ability, if you're running that many servers and you want a little bit more control rather than all of them polling automatically every 4 hours, you can also go in and utilize those tools by telling each of the agents to not automatically update every 4 hours, but you can also set it to auto update to off, and you can actually utilize these tools in your own organizational scheme to send out the update command to the command line. So you have a lot of control with automation tools, so it simplifies the process of managing that level of servers. So thank you for that question. And then I've got one more. Sonali, what steps can vSphere administrator take to ready their organizations for success with VMware Cloud on AWS?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that they need to do is they need to size their environment. So we have a sizer tool available on our website. So they just need to add their input their environment details, and then we'll tell them like, okay, what exactly they need to purchase as far as VMware Cloud on AWS is concerned. And then they can actually plan the migration. Like, do they want to do a step-by-step migration, or do they want to do like the complete migration? So they can plan that. And then the third stage is actually doing migration. So they can use either the cold migration, or they can use the VMware HCX that is available in VMware Cloud and AWS. And I'm happy to say that in order to ease that process, so at VMworld this year, we launched something called as VMware Cloud on AWS migration experience. So that basically tells you the step-by-step guidance on how you can start your migration. So let me find out the link for that solution, and that is available as a free for our customers. So basically, what you have to do is you have to enter what are your needs, and accordingly it provides you a guided step-by-step instructions on how you should perform your migration, and also it provides you some of the documentation and some of the help material as well while you go through these steps. So I'll just find out that link and I'll put it in the chat box.
So it looks like we've covered all of our questions. Sonali, is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
No, so I think that's pretty much it. And if you want any more information, so we have like up-to-date roadmap available on our website. So our website also contains all the pricing information, and we are very active on our Twitter handle as well. So our hashtag is our handle is at VMware Cloud AWS. So you can subscribe to that, and we wrote a lot of different like technical blogs as well on cloud.vmware.com/community. So you can check out our latest blogs over there as well. And just give me a second, I'll just put that link for the VMware Cloud on AWS migration experience solution.
Great, thank you. Everyone, we appreciate you being here. Just a reminder, we have a 30-day Kernel Care trial at KernelCare.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.